For decades, Hong Kong action films were a staple in Asia, like stir-fried veggies on rice before the rest of the world caught up. It's no surprise that blending the fast-paced, often chaotic energy of the most popular films at that time attracts visionaries, trying out their luck in translating an actor's likeness into another form of entertainment medium. You might be asking, how did they manage to get a famous celebrity in a video game? Well, the idea behind it was so simple, even a 15-year-old can do it.
15-year-old. Marry me!
In 1997, the idea of a famous actor starring as himself in a video game was almost unheard of. One man set out to change that, and in doing so, he unknowingly helped pioneer the use of an A-lister's likeness to create a more fluid, lifelike presence in games. I'm of course talking about Jackie Chan Stuntmaster and its uncredited original creator, Ian Verschere. Unlike many of his peers, Verschere's path into the game industry began with an unexpected injury from a skiing accident. That setback led him to art school, where he pursued animation, eventually landing a job at a small studio that was later acquired by EA. From there, he went on to co-found Radical Entertainment in Vancouver. Titles he made like Beavis and Butthead and SSX Tricky were instant classics. Even the bad ones, like his first game, Mario is Missing, left a lasting mark, shaping his belief that his career should be built on originality and creation, on making something truly his own. During the production of Stuntmaster, Verschere drew heavily from two key influences, most notably, Operation Condor and Drunken Master 2, whose set pieces feel as if they could have been lifted straight from Super Mario 64, both of which helped shape his vision for a 3D platformer that is unique, and refuses to blend into the crowd. Unlike most celebrity tie-in games that have very little to do with them, it is centered on Jackie's natural comedic timing and style of films, more than any licensed game had attempted before. An early effort to translate Hong Kong action flicks into interactive form, something Sony Computer Entertainment or Hideo Kojima would only explore a bit later. According to Ian, I wanted to make a game that was basically Super Mario with fighting. Although Verschere's vision was met with skepticism, he pushed forward, eventually bringing the action star onto a studio set, which according to Ian, the process was surprisingly simple. We basically called Jackie Chan up through his management, and the deal for exclusive rights to his animated likeness came together really quickly. Given Jackie's extremely high profile at that time, it wasn't more than $500,000. Jackie is then put in this motion capture system to track and record his movements, a roughly 400 polygon in-game model that not only could be viewed in real time, but also record his movements as they happened virtually. What he envisioned was a system of fighting multiple enemies at once using Jackie's non-confrontational style, turning everyday objects and the environment into improvised weapons. In doing so, it encourages players to think creatively, and be rewarded with higher scores for doing it with flair. Verschere even recalled, "I've kept very few souvenirs of my 30 years in games, but one I have is an autographed CD for PS Dev Kits." He wrote a simple note that said, "Dear Ian, good idea, Jackie." Even Jackie loved the idea that his actions and skills, basically his whole personality, are being immortalized during his prime years. Stuntmaster originally intended as a 3D platformer about Jackie fending off rival filmmakers sabotaging his work, a fitting premise for a Jackie Chan fighting simulator. Ironically, the real production faced the same problem. Verschere goes on to say that just as the team should have been focusing on what mattered, an executive producer came out of nowhere, pushing ideas that had to be entertained, even though they'd never played a single video game in their life.
About it, I thought this was one of those neck massagers.
Collaboration is necessary, but it becomes a liability when it turns into excessive bureaucracy. That's a problem in every industry, especially when an overzealous executive producer starts throwing ideas around. Ultimately, Stuntmaster starts pulling in two directions. On one side, the original idea, a fast, arcade-style game with enemies swarming the player, like something out of Drunken Master 2. But the imposed direction shifted toward cutscenes and narrative elements, instead of refining the frame rate and polishing the game's combat and physics. As these priorities drift apart, the game's core identity starts to blur. Considering Verscher's love for Hong Kong action cinema, and his tendency to draw from what he watched and played, it's clear this is what drove him to create Stuntmaster.
Radical entertainment.
Like many classic PS1 titles, it opens with one of the most funniest scenes in gaming. After receiving a mysterious package, Jackie's grandfather is kidnapped by a group of brightly colored, cartoonish goons, working for a local mobster, who bears a vague resemblance to Steven Seagal.
What the heck you doing? I thought we were chatting just now.
The game spans 15 levels set across New York City
of terror, and enjoy it again and again. It's too big to miss.
and divided into 5 distinct areas.
Chinatown, waterfront, Sura,
The rooftops, and like any true classic 90s fashion, a final boss whose hideout is in a factory. In the way it's put together, it echoes the design of Mario games. Each world hub branches out simply and intuitively. Forward for one level, left for another, right for the next, before funneling you toward a boss encounter, then moving you onto the next area. It's a straightforward system, but an effective one. Each section in the hub world feels like its own self-contained playground, a compact mini-world purposely designed around a single idea, letting the player explore just enough before pushing forward. The game didn't feature a tutorial, but the controls were intuitive, which removed its need. However, a manual was included in the disc where you can read on how to play the game, learn basic moves, and what certain items do. It even hints of secret items somewhere in the game. Once you're in the game, you can explore each area to find hidden dragons, including golden ones, which are rare. Every level contains 10 red dragons and a single golden dragon tucked away in each section. Collecting them all unlocks a secret area, though if you're impatient, you can simply enter a cheat code to access it. There are a bunch of helpful items scattered throughout the game that assist Jackie in completing his mission. Some of these items allow him to perform special moves against enemies, much like in his movies where he transforms everyday objects into non-refundable weapons of destruction. While engaging in combat, there are combos you can perform along with charged attacks, grabs, and my personal favorite, the monkey roll double kick, which can also serve as crowd control. You can also parry, even though it is so unresponsive that you get beaten up for trying. Speaking of unresponsiveness, the game's main issue isn't the controls themselves, but the jumping. At times, the delayed response creates the feeling that Jackie is sliding across a sleet of ice, made worse by the lack of a shadow to judge landing positions, meaning jumps often end in unnecessary failures. While the controls are fundamentally simple, the game demands precise platforming, which makes the experience more frustrating than genuinely difficult. Traversal itself is seamless, but the loading screens are noticeably long, especially after missing a jump or two. The most frustrating part is the downtime, where you're left staring at the Twin Towers before you can get back into the action. In hindsight, the game might have benefited from leaning harder into beat-em-up territory, with a deeper moveset and more interactable environments, something closer in spirit to Bungie's 2001 game Oni. Along with the combat, it feels less like a game adaptation and more like stepping onto one of his movie sets. One notable example is the tent drop from the rooftops is a clear homage to Project 8. There is also the sewer-level fighting on a train, much like the climax of Super Cop. Lastly, the secret Shaolin Temple level, where he gets a power-up in the form of alcohol, is a direct reference to Drunken Master. A lot of the game's charm comes from stumbling onto Jackie's quirky animations, paired with humorous dialogue whenever he encounters enemies.
You call that dancing? You have to learn how to relax.
I smell high karate. Just my luck to be out of air freshener. That's going to hurt in the morning. Hey, there's my house. That's good fortune.
Those enemies aren't just fodder either, they come with their own goofy one-liners and small touches of authenticity.
I think I'm gonna puke.
My bruises got bruises.
I give up. I'm getting too old for this.
Casually lounging on chairs or leaning against walls as if they've got all the time in the world, right before getting embarrassed by a delivery boy. From a graphical standpoint, Stuntmaster's art style leans into that kid-friendly design with big goofy-looking Duplo blocks, and it did not bother me at all when I was playing it as a kid. If anything, it gave the game a refreshingly unique identity. The levels are built primarily from shaded polygons, with only minimal use of texture mapping throughout. A handful of sprite-based objects appear here and there, mostly used on items. The reason for this, according to Ian, is as follows. Textures take up memory, and when the camera moves around, it's quite noticeable once you spot it. While it is fine in games with slow-paced strategic gameplay, in 3D environments, it's better to light shade, as ultimately that feels more real, as cameras and characters move around. Compared to many games of its time, Stuntmaster lacks the typical PS1 jitter, the wobbly, unstable look of 3D models. But that comes with a trade-off. Jackie Chan is recognizable mostly through his movement, it's his animations that sell the illusion. The enemies, by contrast, are far more basic in their design. That visual trade-off becomes easier to accept once the game is in motion, where its design opens up and gives you full control over Jackie's movement in every direction. You can move Jackie left, right, up, down, and sometimes, even toward or away from you like in Crash Bandicoot when he runs toward the screen or gets chased. The world moves around him in all directions, which makes it feel more exciting. According to Ian, he actually wanted something like a smart camera that could move like in a real movie, like pulling back into a big crane shot while Jackie climbs a ladder, making everything feel more cinematic. Unfortunately, like many of his other ideas, this too was left behind during development. He had his own plan for the game, but other people in charge kept pushing it in a different direction, one he didn't like. Eventually, he got so frustrated that he decided to stop working on it and leave before the game was even finished. Eventually released in the spring of 2000, the game received average reviews. GameSpot noted, when all is said and done, Jackie Chan Stuntmaster is a solid game, but from a technological standpoint, it's a bit behind the pack. If the game had been released in a more timely fashion, it would have made a much larger impact, but it's still worth checking out. The game sold okay, but it never became a huge hit. And it never left the PlayStation, even though a port to Dreamcast and Windows PCs would have made sense. According to Vershare, the main reason is licensing. There was an expiration date for the usage of Jackie's name and likeness in games. On top of that, companies like Midway or Sony control the money and decisions for making new versions like releasing to other ports and consoles. Despite its modest reception at launch, Stuntmaster has since developed a cult following, earning recognition as one of the PS1's most underrated classics decades later. In the end, it stands as a true homage for an ambitious attempt to translate cinematic action into interactive form. Although imperfect in its execution, the ideas it brings are far ahead of its time. It stands as both a game of undeniable promise and a stark reminder of everything it could have become.